My man Irfan here is fishing for an atheist. He got the king of atheists. He's the king of atheists in this park. Yeah?
King of don't know, but don't know sounds like.
He's the king of don't know. You know, the problem is, you see, I'm going to leave you with Irfan. I'll tell you I'm going to leave you with Irfan, yeah? Because we've got a video with this guy, and it's called Don't Know Where the Gaps. And all this guy says is don't know.
No, but that's because
he don't know.
No, but that's my whole point. This is a really important issue. Where we don't know, we have to admit that we don't know. And the problem I have with this is that they claim to know the answer to these great mysteries. And I don't think
But we do. But we do.
An infinite set of people. If I divide them, what's if I divide them from 6, every part of this 6, how big it's going to be?
As I said, it's undefined.
It's undefined. That means are they going?
As far as I know.
Are they going to a specific parts?
Say it loud, say it proud. You don't know.
As far as I know, it's undefined.
You said something earlier, and I want to see just to clarify this.
Yeah.
You're saying an infinite. We're going to use infinite again. An infinite chain of dependent things can exist without the need for anything independent.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's what you claimed.
So I don't see any reason to think
so he's going to tell you why you're wrong. Phil. Oh, Phil! Oh, Phil! Phil the atheist. I was just making the point, that all atheists are agnostic atheists. All atheists.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what...
All of you are.
I mean, why I see it is that when you look up a word in a dictionary, it doesn't have one meaning, it has multiple meanings.
So you're an atheist or an agnostic?
Depends how you define it.
Okay. Do you believe in the existence of God?
No, I do not.
Do you believe God doesn't exist?
Depends what you mean by God.
Creator.
There are different definitions.
When I say God, you know what I'm talking about.
So if you're talking about the Muslim God, I would say
no. I'm talking about creator of everything.
Well, the problem is, you know what happens? Trying to define that is hard.
No, I'm talking about the creator of everything. Do you believe this universe?
I don't believe there's a personal creator of everything. No.
You don't believe that?
Yeah.
So maybe a mechanical force, but
no, but
could it be something like
Could it be
and
true?
there are things called.
Could there be a God? Well, could there be a God?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out.
So you could be wrong.
Yeah, of course I could.
Okay.
Of course I could.
But when
do you think you could be wrong?
No. Okay.
Why do you think you couldn't?
Because I've got reasons. I've got valid reasons supporting what I believe.
I know, but we've all got valid reasons.
What's your valid reasons for denying God then? What is your best evidence against the existence of God?
I mean, I think the problem of suffering is particularly animal suffering.
So the problem of suffering is why is that? Why does animal suffering demonstrate to you God doesn't exist?
Wait, but even before that.
One second. No. So let's just deal with this 1 second. 1 second. Why does animal suffering demonstrate God doesn't exist?
Because I think if God were all powerful, he would be able to stop it.
What if God is happy with animal suffering?
Well, the problem is he's supposed to be all good. So he
No. You've added that. You've added all good. You've just added all good.
That's why I said there's an issue with definitions, right? So most people would define.
No, but if God is happy with animal sufferings, then animal suffering would be proof of God.
Yeah, if you well, no, it wouldn't because
it would.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay, so I asked you a very simple question.
Yeah. I'm taking the assumption that God is.
No, I'm asking you. Well, no, forget that.
Well, no, but that can't just.
You have to. I'll make it easy. No, it's not.
That is generally accepted.
Because that's not the question I'm asking you. I'm not asking you to talk about religion. I'm not talking about Islam. I'm not talking about Christianity or any other religion.
That's the problem.
When I say God, okay. Do you believe in a creator?
Here's what I don't believe in: and the God that is all powerful and all good and all knowing. That's what I think.
Forget that.
We're not there yet.
We're not even there.
No, but that is what.
No, but the point here is what is your best evidence against the creator of the universe?
Well, okay. If you're talking about a personal creator, I would say.
Stop saying personal.
Well, okay, but there's a
okay.
thing.
Do you believe the universe came into existence or not?
I don't believe that it did. I don't believe that.
You don't believe it did. All right, but so you believe it had a cause, yes?
No.
So you do believe, so it didn't come into existence. So, you know, the problem is, you see, I'm going to leave you with Irfan. I'll tell you I'm going to leave you with Irfan, because we've got a video with this guy, and it's called Don't Know Where the Gaps. And all this guy says is don't know.
No, but that's because
he don't know.
No, but that's my whole point. This is a really important issue. Where we don't know, we have to admit that we don't know. And the problem I have with this is that they claim to know the answer to these great mysteries, and I don't think.
But we do.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference.
Because here's the difference between us. Here's the difference between us. You say you don't know, and then you say we're wrong about the things you don't know about. That's what you do. Okay.
No, what I'm saying is you're unjustified. It's not.
I believe we're justified. I don't. You know, when you call us God of the Gaps.
What do you think is the best evidence for God then?
Creation.
Yeah. Go on, elaborate.
Okay. I don't believe that this universe could fine-tune itself.
Okay, so it's fine-tuning. Is that the argument?
I don't believe carbon can form in stars by random action. I don't believe that the
Who says it formed by random action?
do you know how did carbon form?
Sorry?
How did carbon
By
form?
nuclear fusion.
Of what?
Well, of lighter elements.
Of which elements?
Well, you go from, like, you start off with hydrogen and helium, right? They're basically,
Okay, let me ask you a question. How did helium and beryllium bridge the gap to get to carbon?
well, instead of fusion.
No, how? No, what is the odds of it doing it?
What's the odds?
Probability.
Well, that's a hard question to answer.
No, well, I'll tell you why it's not.
Because
It's absurd, the probability.
Why is it absurd?
So what is the odds?
Well, it's a hard question to answer because when you say what are the odds, you have to know. There's a number of things you have to determine, right? So let's suppose we're throwing a dice. Yeah, we want to know what's the odds of rolling six, let's say. We have to make some assumptions, right? So we have to assume that the dice is even. We have to assume there are 6 different numbers because, you know, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you'll know there are 20-sided dice and all kinds of different.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Right? Right, so you have to make assumptions to determine probabilities. You don't just pull them out of a hat, right?
Do you believe a dice roll is random?
Yeah.
You don't believe if you knew all the angles of the air density and all these things, you could predict what he's going to land on every time?
I think it depends again. It depends on definition.
Because you can't prove,
right?
Yeah,
so there is fundamental. Okay, so there is a consensus view that there are fundamentally random things in the universe.
How could you prove randomness?
Randomness is just the absence of our knowledge.
Yeah, absence of
So if we
explanation.
don't know how this happened.
Well, then things are random, then, right? They're clearly
No. You can't
Makes
prove
sense.
randomness.
Why I'm saying is that in reality there is no randomness.
How do you
it's
know
just
that?
It's just our.
do you know
If you say that there is randomness, the burden of proof is upon you.
But you just said there isn't. Why don't we have a?
No, because you said there is.
No, but you're
No,
making
what I
a.
said was the consensus.
Do you believe randomness exists?
I'm making a negative claim. You see, when you say we atheists, we just lack in evidence of God. So you want us to bring the evidence.
No, okay.
Give him an
Okay,
example.
but okay, you just said
Don't worry, we've got him on
everything
toast.
there's nothing random.
Because I said
How do you know that? There are certainly things that appear.
you making the positive claim that something randomly can happen.
I didn't say that. What I said was.
Can something happen by randomness?
This is
Depending on
Hamza's
how you
dead
define
exclusive, mate.
randomness. So if we define it as a lack of knowledge, as you said, right? So if I think that I don't,
You can do
know
10 minutes,
what
but I don't take any mics,
dice
just so
is
you
gonna come out as, then that has a lack of knowledge. So if we define it that way,
Thank you very
yes,
much.
clearly things are random. Now we can also ask a deeper question: are there things fundamentally random? Like not just a lack of knowledge, but just
by chance,
fundamentally
like this.
random, right? So that's an interesting question, and I think the consensus amongst physicists, well, I know because I've been surveyed, the consensus amongst
No,
physicists
but don't go to
is-
physicists.
Is that
I'm
that's
talking with
true.
you, you know,
Yes,
I know.
Is that's true? That's a consensus among physicists. Now, does that mean I'm certain about that? No. Right, but I think that when we look at certain experiments, like if you send photons through a beam splitter, it certainly appears that it's random. And it certainly appears that way, right? But there's not a firm.
You're saying-
I would say it appears that way.
You're saying it appears it is random, but I think we just don't know the explanation. Because
Well, that's
if you
possible, but-
when you say it appears that it's random,
Yeah.
so I mean there is no explanation. It just happened like this.
Yeah.
So this is a positive claim. You need to back up why there is
Well, okay,
there is no
look at-
explanation to that. And instead of saying I don't know, you always say I don't know from what I hear
don't
from him.
always say we
But
don't
here
know.
you say,
No,
but here.
there are plenty of things I think we do know.
Where does the
Okay?
information in DNA come from?
Well, it comes from counting the number of states.
So where does the information
Hamza, maybe.
But it's evolved
Where does the information in DNA come from?
through evolution. I mean, you have gene duplication.
Well, maybe returning to that I don't know thing.
Well, here I'm not saying we don't.
No.
I think we have very good
I'm saying-
evidence.
okay.
Then we have very good evidence for
There's
evolution.
no evidence or there's no explanation how information gets into DNA.
What kind of information are we talking about? Are we talking about Kolmogorov information or Shannon information?
Functional information.
No, but that's not how information is defined. Usually it's 2 standard definitions of information. Shannon information and Kolmogorov information. So which information are you referring
What
to? That is you look up a textbook on information theory.
Well, I'm telling
they are
you.
the 2 standard definitions.
Well, I'm telling you
of
my
information. So
definition
which
of information.
One? Which one are you
I'm telling you
using?
my definition of information.
So none of the ones that
I'm
have been
telling you the definition of my information.
Okay.
The information I'm referring to is the information which is like the blueprints, which goes into the DNA which
Yeah.
tells the cell what proteins to produce. Yeah, I'm talking about that blueprint. Yeah, where does that come from?
That evolves over time,
From
over
what?
generations.
From what?
From simpler organisms.
From the original cell. From what?
Well, and then
But the first
would
cell
have-
must have held the information that could
the
make.
first cell,
Right.
where did that information come from?
Well, there are definitely theories of how cells evolve.
There's no explanation.
No, that's not true.
Okay, tell me the theory.
Well, you can look that up.
No, I want you to tell me the theory.
I'm not an expert on
I'm
cells.
telling you there's no theory.
Well, that's just wrong.
Okay, so give me the theory.
Okay. Well, like Lee Cronin has a theory of how
Google it
cells
then.
evolve.
No, you tell
fine.
me.
I don't know the details.
All I'm
not-
asking.
You know,
Here's my
I'm not
question.
going to be an expert on everything,
No.
right?
Here's the question I'm asking.
And neither are you.
Here's the question I'm asking you. In the first cell,
Yeah.
where did the information come from? In the
From what everything
Well, I would
evolved
have
from.
thought the first cell
No, I'm not sure
would
what you
unlike.
think.
Well, I can only tell you what I think, right? I mean, what else
Okay,
can I tell
you
you?
tell us what you think, rather than
Okay.
give us a theory. Go on. Give us your theory. You were given a scientific theory before, now it's your theory. Give us your theory.
I am not an expert on
I'm
how
saying to you, there is
cell-
no explanation for that information in the first cell. There is no explanation in
Right.
science.
You can claim that, right?
So I'm claiming that.
Okay.
All right. Are you
But-
saying there
okay.
is?
There are potential explanations. I agree. We
Yeah,
don't
show
know
us
how
one.
the first
All right,
cells
give us your
form.
explanation.
I'm going to be completely honest about that. We don't know how the
Shall I
first
give you
cells
Richard
form.
Dawkins' explanation?
Well, Richard Dawkins is not an area of his.
He's a biologist.
Yeah, but he works on animal behaviour and.
But is he more about biology than you?
Sure.
Okay. So what's his explanation?
I don't know.
Aliens.
Oh, we started
No, it
again.
isn't. That's not true. That is not true.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. That's
Richard,
just-
Richard
it doesn't- quite
Dawkins.
frankly,
No.
even
Let me
if it
quote
were
him. I know the
true-
quote.
Even if it were true, it doesn't matter.
Listen.
In BBC radio, Richard Dawkins was asked, "What is something you believe in but have no evidence for?" So he said that there could be aliens that planted the first life. But,
There could be.
but wait.
Listen,
Even
fine.
these aliens,
Yeah.
they have to go back to Darwinian evolution. So
Right.
even this intelligence, so
But here's the thing.
So
we have
basically,
very strong evidence.
he
for
makes a-
Darwinian evolution. We have overwhelming
Right.
evidence.
he makes a print.
Darwinian evolution.
Well, no, listen.
Are you doubting that?
Hamza.
Are you doubting that?
Give the dog a bone.
Are you doubting that?
Yeah.
Are you doubting that humans and chimps evolved from a common ancestor?
One second. I have no. If you want to make the claim
Yeah.
that humans and chimps evolved from common ancestor, my logical question needs to be: where did the common ancestor come from?
Yeah, okay. You could.
Where?
Right.
Where?
From a previous ancestor.
And what was that?
Well, it would be something like Australopithecus, probably.
A fish.
Australopithecus is not a fish.
No, but we know it's a fish, isn't it? Come on, say it loud, say it proud. It's a fish.
Australopithecus is not a
What's an
fish.
Australopithecus?
You don't know what Australopithecus
No, you
is?
tell me what it is. Oh, it's a, no.
Well, you're talking about evolution. You're asking me to come up with theories of the origin of
Well,
cells.
what is
and you
that?
don't even.
What is it?
know
What is it? What is it?
Australopithecus is a,
You know what
is a very good transitional
Something in art
form,
maybe.
which has many features of chimpanzee.
What is it?
and
Alright,
many
so we're still in the
features of
monkey
humans.
family.
Sorry?
So what did that come from?
Well, that would have come from another hominid,
And then where'd that come from?
from previous other mammals.
And what did they come from?
If you're going to ask me where the first cell come from, I'm going to tell you I
Just
don't know.
say fish.
Okay. Right?
I know you're going to say you don't know.
Right. Because we don't.
So then I'm
you're
gonna ask you.
claiming
So-
that you do know.
No.
You're claiming
no.
God.
I'm going to say
information
this.
to
No.
yourself,
I'm going to say
right?
to
And
you.
where's
I'm
the
going to
evidence
expose
for
a double
that?
standard. I'm going to
Where's
expose a
the-
double
where's the
standard.
evidence for
I'm going to
that?
expose a double standard. Because if the first cell contains information, functional information, it serves a purpose. It's like blueprints to a building.
You don't understand what information is.
okay.
Darren.
Look.
You don't
I'll
understand
say it
what
again to you.
information is.
Does the information in DNA serve a purpose? Is it functional?
Yeah, of course it is.
Of course it is.
But not
Right,
all of it.
right.
Some of it does not appear to have
okay.
any function.
In the okay.
In fact, most of it, I would say most of it doesn't appear to have any function.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Let's talk about knowing and not knowing.
Most of it does not appear to have any function.
I will let you.
Right.
Okay.
But hang on, let me just.
One second.
Okay.
So the first cell,
Yeah.
for it to create new proteins from the information that it contains in its DNA, that DNA has to be functional. That information has to be functional and serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. Now, can you tell me, in your human experience, whenever you encounter information that's functional and serves a purpose, that information that's functional and serves... One second.
Yeah.
That information that's functional and serves a purpose isn't the result of an intelligent agency. Of anything in your human
Yeah,
experience.
sure. I mean, you could think of
on then.
loads of things, right?
Give me examples.
So let's just take. We have to understand what information is first, because you're talking about information.
Coding.
Right, but you haven't explained what information is. So as I said, if you look up a textbook on information theory, I think the relevant definition of information here is the Kolmogorov information. So let's try and understand what Kolmogorov...
How do you understand what information is?
I'm going to explain to you, right? Because, I've done a little bit of reading about it. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on information theory, and I don't think you are either, because you've never even heard of the two basic definitions.
Okay, you know what? You guys finish this with the cell. No, I go with epistemology. I want to shift it a bit.
Okay, right. Right, so if you understand what Kolmogorov information is, right, it's a way to summarize your ignorance about something. So, for example, let's suppose we have a sequence of numbers, right? So let's imagine we have 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, right? Okay, so your question is, if I want to reproduce that sequence, how many sort of lines of code do I need to reproduce that, right? So that has low information. Now let's imagine a completely random sequence of numbers. 1, 7, 2.3, right? That actually has high information. Why? Because if you were to try and reproduce that sequence, you would need to specify all the numbers in the code. Whereas the 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, right? You only need to say one thing, right? Just to keep changing the 1.
Let me make it easy.
Right? So that's Kolmogorov information.
What type of information is blueprints for a building?
It's blueprints for a building.
Yeah, what's your name for that type of information? Because that's what we're talking about.
You can use that as Kolmogorov information.
What?
Yeah, Kolmogorov information.
What?
Kolmogorov information.
Kolmogorov.
Kolmogorov. It's named
Kolmogorov.
Yeah, you can look it up.
I'm just looking here. Factual, analytical, subjective, and objective.
Look up Kolmogorov information.
Well, you said there's only 2 types of information. I've got 4.
Well, if you look up.
Okay. Whatever it is, that information.
Whatever that information.
Yeah, that information.
Yeah, I'm going to call it the C information. I can't be asked saying that.
So we don't do mental gymnastics here.
Wait. I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to say, right, that scientists cannot explain the origin of information,
they can't.
It would be advisable to learn something about information theory. Learn the basics. And you haven't.
I'll say it again to you.
You don't even know what Kolmogorov information is.
I'll say it again to you.
Right? So clearly you don't know anything at all about information theory.
Okay. What's it? This K information. I'm going to call it K information.
Kolmogorov.
No, I'm not going to say Kolmogorov all the time. I'm going to say
Why
K.
not? Why is
I can't be bothered.
Don't play with words. It's just
you clearly can't be bothered to even read the basics of information.
Don't try. What you're doing, you're just playing with words. To be honest.
No, we're not. No. There's an
when I say K information,
he means,
you understand what I'm talking about.
you mean the same thing. So let's just, whatever you call it,
fine.
just talk about it. Okay?
Give me an example in your human experience of K information without intelligent agents.
Okay, sure. Let's imagine we have a puddle of water.
Yeah,
okay. Right, you can describe that puddle of water. Yeah. In fact, that's what happens when you take a picture of it. When you take a picture of it, your phone is compressing that information because it doesn't need to know, if it's uniform, it doesn't need to know everything about the picture. So that's what compression is. This is where information theory sort of comes from, right? Now imagine just a bit of dirt or a leaf falls on that puddle of water, right? What's happened to the information? It's gone up. Why? Because before you had a uniform surface, so the amount of information that you needed to describe it was very little. Now you've got a complicated system, right? Little bits of dirt have fallen on the surface, maybe there's leaves falling on it, right? Straight away the information's gone up.
Why is that complicated?
Right? The information's clearly gone up because you have to specify.
There's a hole and water fell in it.
No, I didn't say water fell in it. Listen to what I'm saying.
What are we saying?
Bits of dirt and leaves fall on the surface of the puddle. Right? What's happened to the information, Darren?
I think we're talking about
what's happened to the... No, we're not.
I think we are.
No, we're not. Because you don't understand information theory.
No, I don't.
And again, I'm not claiming to be an expert on it, but I think I know a little bit more than you do.
Okay.
He means the information that wasn't the cell, that was the blueprint for everything what came after it.
No. And here's an example of something natural happened and the information's clearly gone up.
Okay.
Right? It's clearly gone up.
I'll say it again to you.
Right?
So blueprints...
So you're telling me it can't go up without an intelligent designer, and I've just given you an example where it's...
Could blueprints exist without intelligent design?
Depends what you mean by a blueprint.
Blueprint for a building.
For a building, no. Buildings are designed by people.
Why can't the blueprints... why do the blueprints need...
Well, because the way we understand these things, blueprints for buildings, is they're designed by people.
No, why can't
I've never seen a blueprint for a building.
You'd never believe that, would you? You'd never believe that the blueprints...
I wouldn't believe a blueprint for a building was not designed by a person.
Or a paragraph in a book.
No, because we know how books form. Books form by people writing them.
No.
We've seen books being written
because
all
we know,
the time.
No, but you could have
Right?
a book and you could have all random letters.
All right. So you're saying, right, that these processes have to be analogous to how humans do.
What I'm saying is
Okay.
this. What I'm saying is this.
Have you ever seen a book?
What I'm saying
okay,
is
let's
this.
just turn your
No,
argument
what I'm
against
saying
you.
is this. No, you tell me what I'm saying. I'm telling you what I'm
Okay.
saying. Then you can respond to what I'm
Okay,
saying. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is the information found in DNA in the original cell is the equivalent of blueprints for a building. Because it's the blueprints of the building.
It's not equivalent.
I believe so. Why is it not equivalent?
Because blueprints do not reproduce themselves. One of the key ways that complexity arises through evolution is through reproduction.
How does
blueprints, right, do not have the things that you need for evolution. So random copying errors, plus reproduction, plus selection. None of that is present on a blueprint for a building.
You believe in
so
random?
these two
Whoa.
things are not analogous.
One more second. So you're not pointing to randomness in that cell information?
Sorry?
Do you believe that information is random?
Okay, so I think that mutations happen.
No. In the first cell.
I don't know about the first cell.
I'm
We don't have any
talking
evidence of what
about the first cell.
was like.
I'm talking about the first cell. And I made a claim.
But it doesn't matter.
Well, I made the claim at the very, very beginning of this conversation that science does not have an answer as to where the information came from in the first cell. And you're now.
I agree. We don't know where the first cell came from.
No, you didn't agree. You
But I said there are ideas about it. It's not. It's not like there's no ideas.
Okay.
There are proposals, but we don't know which.
So what are the
proposal is
proposals?
correct. I don't know. I'm not an expert in the origin of cells. Okay, but I can read you. I can give you some reading material. There's a whole book called The Genesis Quest where they go over all the different competing
Have
ideas.
you ever read the book Return of God Hypothesis?
Remind me who that's by?
Stephen Meyer.
I've seen him lecture about it, and I think he's full of nonsense.
What nonsense is he full of? Give me one example.
Because I think he's using the wrong definition of information. Right? And he's using the fine-tuning argument, which I think is a terrible argument.
Why?
That argument makes... it's a terrible
Can you use another argument with him?
Okay.
Okay.
But hang on, let me just... Before we go on to fine-tuning...
No, you don't know. I don't.
No, no fine-tuning. No fine-tuning.
So you don't think fine-tuning is a
No, I'm
valid
going to say
argument?
to you.
I'm not talking about fine-tuning.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I thought. I remember Maya talking about fine-tuning, and I thought he was completely wrong.
No, I think fine-tuning can made as a good argument, but I want to...
Combined.
I don't want to talk about this now.
What was it?
I want to talk about...
Okay, but he mentioned Maya.
Yeah, I know.
He asked me what I thought.
That's why I said you guys finish and then...
That's what I think.
No, Stephen Meyer wrote a book called Signature in the Cell. Like that.
Right.
Okay.
And you believe everything he says. But have you read any other books about cell evolution?
I've seen what.
Have you read any other books about cell evolution? Have you read even one book?
Have you?
Have you read one?
Have you?
Yes.
What books you read?
Well, the Genesis Quest.
And what does the Genesis say this information came from?
There's all kinds of competing
So what does it
models.
say?
Okay, have you read a book critical of this view of that you wrote?
Yes, I have.
What's the critical
Which
book
one?
you read?
I've read. I'm trying to remember now. Hugh Ross. He's a creationist. He thinks none of this makes sense. I've read several of his books, Cosmos and Creator.
Have you read?
So let me ask you a question.
No,
I don't get to ask questions.
No, explain to me.
Really, Darren? You just asked me loads.
No,
Now I don't
it
get to ask
doesn't
you
work that
one.
way. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
I'll explain why.
Hang on. I want to make my point because I haven't even got a chance to make it.
I'll explain. Yeah, don't worry. You're gonna have loads of points to make.
Sorry, say again?
You'll have loads of points to make. Okay. So you asked me.
Yeah.
I asked you for your best evidence against God, and you said animal suffering. Okay.
Yes.
That's your best argument against the creator of the heavens and earth. All right.
No, but that is an argument
It's a rubbish
against
It's not an
a
argument.
God. It is an argument, but
How does animal suffering demonstrate this whole universe is a result of random chance?
I never said it was a result of random chance. Where did I say it was?
Okay, has no creator.
Okay. How does animal suffering demonstrate?
When did I say the universe came from random chance?
How does animal suffering?
Time did I ever
How
say
does
that.
animal suffering demonstrate this universe doesn't have a creator?
What it demonstrates is that the particular type of God, the God
matter.
that you believe in,
Doesn't
right?
matter.
Do you believe God is all powerful?
Yes.
Do you believe he's all good?
No.
You don't believe he's all good?
No. Good is he's the source of what good is.
Do you believe he's omnibenevolent?
No.
You don't?
Oh, he's gonna throw you in hellfire if you believe your nonsense.
So you believe that God is not good?
I didn't say that. I said God
Well, is he good or isn't
I'll
he?
make it easy.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
I'll
Is
make
God
it,
good?
I'll make it easy for you.
Is God good?
Okay. God is the standard of what good is.
So is God good? Yes or no?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Okay, so here's the problem.
What?
Here's the problem.
Right.
If God is good, he should want to not have hundreds of millions of years of animal suffering.
Why?
Because that is cruel.
Why?
What if?
If you don't think suffering is cruel, I mean,
Okay, wait.
Why isn't
One thing.
I don't know.
Why isn't
where-
Let me say one thing to this.
Right, I don't know
Wait,
where
wait,
you
wait.
go from there.
If God-
right? If you can't say,
Let me just finish
that
on what-
suffering is
No,
cruel,
no,
I have a good-
then you're
I have
happy,
something
you're
to do
lost.
with it.
One second.
Right, you're just
one
lost.
second.
Right?
I'm just gonna tie what I said.
How
to
do you know-
Right. I asked for your best argument against the existence of God. Right?
you go.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's a
your
very
response is
strong argument.
animal suffering. Right?
Yeah.
Then you ask me, what's my best evidence for God?
Right.
And I say to you, creation. Right. And then I explain to you that I, in my human experience, do not believe information in the first cell
Yeah.
could be the product of nothing, of randomness. No. Okay. Well, you're asking me to believe that without a creator.
Okay.
Unless.
No, I'm not.
Well, you are.
I'm not.
Well, you are.
But, okay.
What are the possible causes of that information then?
Well, first off, right, I gave an example of a natural process that increases
No.
information.
What are the possible
So
causes?
tell me, Darren,
Okay.
how is
What
that
are
not
the-
an example of something increasing information?
What are the possible causes of the
No.
information
Okay.
found in DNA of the first cell? What?
Okay. As I explained to you, I
You just said you don't know.
Well, no, but I gave you an
You
example.
said you don't know.
Right. So listen to me for a second. Don't interrupt. Okay? Is that possible?
I'll be honest with
Is
you.
that
I'll be honest
possible?
with you, Phil. I've
not
dealt with
possible,
you
is
so
it?
many times.
It's not possible,
No.
is it?
I'll tell you why.
It's not.
I'll explain to you why.
Why are you
I'll
interrupting?
explain to you why.
Go on.
I've done 12 videos with you.
Yeah.
And I'll say, and you're doing exactly what I said. We've got a few videos. One is any argument in a storm. So 1 minute you're clinging to relativity, the next thing you're in quantum
I'm not
mechanics.
well,
No, you
hang on.
did. Yeah, you did.
What do you mean clinging to relativity?
all right.
Relativity and quantum mechanics are very well established with enormous amounts of evidence.
Is relativity and
Right.
quantum mechanics can both be true?
Within a degree of confidence. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Quantum
that
mechanics-
they will break down at the Big Bang and the singularities they break
Quantum
down.
mechanics
I agree with
and
that.
relativity.
But what's that got to do with anything?
I'll explain.
Darren?
I'll explain. to you.
What has that got to do
I'll
with
explain to
anything?
you because you have this habit of telling people they're wrong about things you don't know about. That's the thing. So
okay.
I'm giving you.
I
actually-
never said wrong. I said unjustified. In our previous conversation.
unjustified then. Okay.
Right. So because you said,
I'll say to
said-
you, I am justified in
Yeah.
believing that the first information found in DNA in the original cell could only be the product of intelligent agency.
So it's okay. So all right. Are you familiar?
That's it.
Okay. Are you familiar with Landau's theorem?
No.
Right. So Landau's theorem is theorem in information theory that says when information increases, it's a physical process. Okay. So that's a very well known
Where
theorem.
did he-
in
where
information.
did he-
Hang on. You're gonna you've got to stop interrupting me. I've got to be allowed
you've got
to finish the
stop.
sentence.
You've got to stop saying
gotta
long
be allowed
words.
to
If
finish the
Sabor was here now, he'd be burying you. Look, just because I don't know these long words.
got-
Listen to
Bury me,
me. Just
really?
because I don't know
Okay.
these long words, right?
No, but you don't know anything about information
I'll say
theory.
it
It's not that
again
you
to
don't know
you.
long
I'll say it
words.
again to you.
You don't know Landau's
You've
theorem.
already conceded.
You don't know Landau's theorem.
You've already.
Let me finish the
Are you
point.
saying Landau's theorem is the explanation
No, I'm not
for the
saying
information
that.
found in the
I'm
first
not
cell?
saying that,
Right,
but I'm
right. Well,
trying-
let's stop then. Let's stop.
No, because you're trying to say that God put the information in the
No.
cell, right?
What I'm saying.
Is that what you're saying?
What I'm
yes or no?
saying is.
Is that what you're saying?
What I'm
yes or no?
saying is that information could only be generated by an intelligent agency. That's what I'm saying.
Right, okay. So
That's
by God, yes or no?
Well, what's the other explanation?
I'm asking you, is it by God?
I
yes
could do
or
a
no?
Richard Dawkins and say aliens, but I'm
Do
not
you
gonna
want
say that. No.
Okay, so it's by God.
A creator, yes.
Is this creator physical? Does it have a physical body?
No.
No.
All right, so now you're contradicting Landau's theorem, aren't you?
Why?
Because Landau's theorem says that all the information is physical.
Who's Landau's?
Exactly, you don't know anything
Who
about
is
that
Landau? Is
information theorem.
Who is Landau? He's a standard of
Right.
truth.
No, because there's overwhelming evidence on Landau's theorem.
What is
correct.
Landau's theorem?
It says that any time information increases, it's a physical process.
Yeah, because
and you can do that by measuring any information
Well, let's talk about
process,
increasing.
and you measure
Where
the
does
heat.
Landau's theorem?
Akhi, this is very stupid. Can I?
You measure the heat from right, and
This-
you always
this makes
find
only sense,
that
you know
whenever
why?
there's an information
Okay.
increase, there's a heat cost.
Okay,
right?
what
so
kind
that
of-
confirms Landau's theorem, makes a prediction.
Okay, can I say
and
something?
The prediction is confirmed by.
Can I say what is nonsense?
Go ahead.
What method he uses to collect this information? Science, right? That information can only be
By
physical, right?
observations, yeah.
Is the metaphysical realm, if there is a metaphysical realm, observable by science?
You tell me. I don't know anything about this metaphysical realm.
Can
You have to tell me how it.
can
if it
science,
exists,
can science
if
detect
something metaphysical exists, can science examine it?
Maybe. If it interacts with the
How?
world. If it interacts with the world, then yeah.
If it interacts with our world, it's physical.
Well, no, God does a miracle. You could see it, right?
But the miracle itself is going to be the miracle is going to be the effect of
right?
God.
You could see the miracle happening, right?
Yeah, but we're talking about God. It's God Himself. Can He be examined under a microscope or something?
Well, you have to tell me what the definition of God is.
That He's metaphysical, outside the physical world.
Unphysical.
Yeah, He is unphysical.
Right? So tell me, have you ever seen an unphysical thing
I can
increase
prove it.
information?
I can prove it to you.
Have you seen an unphysical thing increase information?
I can prove it to you. Yes.
Have you answer the question? Have you seen an unphysical thing increase information? Have you ever seen a
No, and you know why? You know why?
Designed by an unphysical person.
You know why? You know why I don't see it?
Right?
You know
so
why?
your argument just gets flipped,
Listen,
turned around against you.
if I
You're about to get rinsed.
yourself.
Relax.
if I was every time I see something physical, then I know this cannot be God because it has certain attributes that doesn't fit in the definition of God. It's limited, and the attributes are in a certain way and could be in another way as well, right? So my question to you is, you talk about knowing, okay? Because you say I don't know. You say we theists, we cannot know that the God exists, but at the same
I
time,
didn't say you couldn't know. I said you don't know.
okay, we don't know. So, do you agree that we can know things about the universe and truth?
Yeah, sure.
So, what are the ways you think that we can use to come to truth? Which ways we can use?
Logic and evidence, right?
So,
Combine the two.
what kind of
You do
evidence?
deductions and you do observations.
So, deduction is irrational, right? Or using rationality.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and induction is then science, by using science.
Well, it's not just induction. It could be
Science is
abduction, it
a
could be-
combination
It's
because
a combination. It uses different techniques.
we collect the conclusion through induction, and then we
Well, it could be done.
we
through,
judge it.
It could be done through abduction. It could be done through
Okay.
reduction. It
Okay.
doesn't. It's not fixed to one type of
Okay.
methodology.
I can
Yeah.
give you deduction-based evidence that independent necessary existence exists that has to have a will. With other words,
That's
God.
another what? Sorry.
A will. It has to be personal, a personal
What's
agent.
this? Okay.
Okay, what's this evidence? So if you explore a reality, we're in the reality, okay? If you look at everything that exists, and if you try to come out with every possibilities of existence, I claim, and you can refute me now, that there can only be three conceptuals of existence. First, the impossible existence. It's something that cannot possibly exist, as a squared triangle. Can a squared triangle exist, in your opinion? Why? Because what I'm actually saying,
But that's
it has
true
no
via-
meaning.
That's true axiomatically, right?
Yeah,
So it's true via axioms. You define what a triangle is.
Yeah.
You define what a square is.
So what I'm-
But that doesn't really say anything about the world around
Yeah.
us because it's an axiomatic statement.
The thing is, if you're on the same definition what the square is and the triangle is, okay? When I say square triangle, I'm actually speaking about nothing, right? This sentence, there is a square triangle in my pocket.
Right.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing in my pocket. Like it just holds grammatical value, right? So impossible existence cannot exist. Then I say there is another category, and it's what everything we have direct experience with, it's possible existences. What I mean by possible existences, I mean that there are things that could possibly exist and not exist. Like me, you, this thing. So we could in our mind, we could imagine that this thing doesn't exist, and it would not it would not have consequences for our whole existence.
But that wouldn't that assume that determinism is false?
No, I'm talking about.
Doesn't that assume that determinism is false?
I'm not talking about the.
No, but I think there's an implication of what you're saying.
No, it's not. It's not.
Right? No, it is important.
Let's leave this now.
No, because it's important. You can't just leave it when I want to say something important.
Because we
right?
can.
No. Hang on. Right? I think what you just said was that there are possible things that exist.
You're
It could
saying-
be this or it could be that. Right?
You say-
now. That would assume that determinism is false. Okay?
That's right. You mean it's determinism is right?
It's false.
What do you mean by what do you?
What do you mean by
determinism?
determinism?
That if you have a condition A, right,
Okay.
then effect B must follow from it. That there's no possible path.
How
that
does
would
this
take.
not exist in?
Right?
No, what I meaning it could possibly not exist. You don't understand me. We're talking about.
I think I do understand.
No,
I
no.
don't think you
Let me
understand.
clarify. Let me clarify.
Okay, all right.
What I'm talking about, it could possibly not exist. It means if we take me and you, okay, if you imagine that I would not exist, would it have consequences as on existence as a whole? Would nothing? Would nothing
See, if you
be
didn't
possible?
exist, the description of the world changes because you
Yeah,
were part of the
but-
description,
but-
and now you're not.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm talking
the
about
description
existence
of
as
the
a
world
whole.
changes.
Existence as a whole would have no consequence, right? Like,
I don't agree. Why would it have no consequence?
if I would not exist, could nothing exist? No, because something could exist.
But that's not the same as saying there's no consequence.
So that
of
means
not existing.
I'm not talking about that.
Well, then what
so,
are you
so
talking about?
I'm talking about that my existence is possible. You can imagine me not existing.
I can imagine it.
Okay.
But the fact I can imagine
Okay,
something
wait.
doesn't mean.
I'm just
but
talking.
there's an important point here.
I'm just talking about my definitions.
Yeah, I know.
I have not broke the argument. The argument is still not
I
there.
just want to clarify something.
Okay.
Right? The fact that you can imagine something doesn't mean that it's actually possible, right? We have to
Yeah, I know.
different types of
I'm not
possibilities.
saying this.
I could imagine, right?
I'm just-
that tree just suddenly
But
vanishes.
I'm not
But
talking
that
about
doesn't
this.
mean it's actually possible.
I'm not
The
talk-
laws of physics may prevent it.
Yeah, but
Right. So we're talking about different types of possibilities.
well, you're talking next to me. I just
Okay.
want to give you
I wanna
definitions.
clarify that,
Yeah.
that what we're talking
Okay,
about.
no problem.
Okay, why don't you finish it
The
up?
other thing is possible existences
Yeah.
have certain parts. They're composed of certain parts that are conceivable in another way. So you could imagine a human with 4 arms, with 3 legs, with 6 eyes or something, okay? So they could be in another way. Another thing is, when we want to explain a possible existence, why it is in this way, it actually is, and not in another way, can we explain it through itself? Or do we need an external explanation? If I want to know, okay. If I want to know why you have 2 arms and 2 legs and you came to be as you are, is the answer to this in your existence, in your own existence, or
No, I think we have
exterior?
very good evidence that the reason I existed was from prior condition.
So there is, there's prior condition.
Yeah.
The,
So in that
the-
case,
the
yeah.
explanation why you are like you are is external to yourself, okay?
It's yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this
I
is
agree.
this is the meaning of possible existence. Then I say there's a category, and I'm going to show you why this category has to exist, and it's the last category, necessary existence. And the necessary existence is just the opposite of what the possible existence is. So, where the possible existence could be imagined that it could not exist, the necessary existence cannot be imagined not to exist. Okay, it's just the opposite. We're just talking about the category. I'm not talking
Can you
about.
give me an example of something that's a necessary
Yeah,
existence?
I'm going to give you. I just want to get the definitions
Yeah,
right.
I know, but
So,
give me an example.
as well, I'm going to come to that, but let's just go through that. As well, the attributes of the necessary existence could not be in any other way. There are no parts that could be detachable and attachable or conceivable in another way. So, the explanation of the necessary existence, contrary to the possible existence, needs to come from the necessary existence itself, okay? So the argument goes like this. When we explore our universe, every existence we see would fall under the category of possible existences, right?
No, I don't agree.
So there is a necessary existence
We don't know.
in our physical
We don't know.
universe.
We can't-
Wait,
we
wait,
know-
wait.
We don't know. It could be that there's no other
Okay,
way.
okay.
Let's take just
Okay, okay.
one example.
Let me formulate it
No,
better.
but let me hang on. You've
What
spoken
other
for a while.
option do you have?
Let me just respond for a second, right? Let's just take, for example, the gravitational constant, right? Could it be different to what it was? We don't know.
Well, let me formulate it in another
It might
way.
be that it's the only value that it has is the
So
only
if I
value that
said-
it can have.
Brother, if
But
I-
we just don't know.
If I said that
Right?
gravitation,
And it could be that the universe
No,
is deterministic.
but me and you,
In
we
which case,
agreed.
Everything is the way it is
No,
because the way it
but
has.
me and you, we
Right?
agreed
We
on
just
something.
don't know.
Me and you agreed on something. That possible existences are dependent on a prior condition. We agreed on
I
this.
certainly agree that
Okay,
my existence
wait.
is dependent on.
Okay,
time.
okay, okay.
Yes, I agree
Okay.
with that. Yeah.
Can there be a chain of endless dependencies at infinite regress?
Why not?
Okay, so I mean, because if we would have to wait on infinite dependencies, we could never exist.
Why not?
Can you wait on infinity to happen?
Yeah, sure. If you've got an infinite amount of time, you need an infinite amount of time to
Okay,
do that.
for example,
Yeah.
for example.
If you count
Let's say,
not one,
let me give you an example.
hang on.
Let me
I
finish
need to
this.
do one question
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Let me finish this. Let me say this Mister here, okay?
Okay.
For example, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna tell him, get me something to drink, okay?
Yeah.
He's gonna tell the person behind him, and the person behind him gonna tell the person behind him.
it's a regress.
And
Yeah.
if the water is coming back, what do we know? 100%. That the chain of people ended somewhere.
Why do we say that?
Because if the chain of people,
This is where did it begin, right?
because if the chain of people behind them would be infinite,
Yeah.
I would never get my water.
You would,
because
you'd have an infinite amount of time.
I would have to wait. Can you wait for infinity?
But now you've got a circular argument. You're saying it
Okay.
can't be infinite because in a finite amount of time,
No.
you'd only have a finite
Okay,
amount of
okay,
steps.
okay, okay.
But the whole point is, if you assume...
Okay.
Now let me finish,
No,
because
no.
you've spoken, right? Now let me respond.
Okay, then let me respond to this.
Respond, right? If you have an infinite... I agree. If you go 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, you're only going to have a finite
Okay.
number of steps in a finite amount of time. Right?
What's a part of infinity?
But, right, if you go 1 plus 1 plus 1 and you have an infinite amount of time, then the cardinality of your set is what? What's the cardinality of the set?
I have a question. If I
No, just answer that question. I go 1 plus 1 plus 1
Okay.
for an infinite amount of time. What's the cardinality?
that's
of the
that's
set?
it's never infinite, but because at every
If
point
it's infinite,
it's
it's
just
endless. It is
it's just
infinite.
potential
By
infinite.
definition.
Because at every
No,
point
no,
it's
that's
limited.
not correct.
Let me ask you a
That
question.
is not correct. If
is.
you go 1 plus 1 plus 1 for an infinite amount of time,
Yeah,
the cardinality
but
of your set is infinite.
But
it's Aleph 1, right? It has to be.
Okay.
That's by definition.
Then answer my
Good.
question. So
Yeah.
if this is true.
So what you're saying is just not correct.
So if there is an infinite chain of
Yeah.
people, okay?
yeah.
If I divide infinity in 6 parts, what's every of the 6 parts? How big is it?
It's undefined.
Infinite, right?
It's undefined. It's undefined.
How undefined?
Because you have to say which infinity you're dealing with.
I haven't-
Let's take an operation.
I'm saying
Let's take an
I'm
operation.
saying there is an infinite amount of people behind this.
But hang on. You have to define, right, your infinities, because not all infinities are the same.
Actual, I'm talking about an actual infinite, not the potential infinite. Okay.
So let's just take a particular operation. Let's say we have Hilbert's Hotel. Are you familiar with Hilbert's Hotel?
Yeah, I know.
So let's presume that we take out, we want to ask, what's infinity minus infinity, right? Or now we have to ask, well, which infinity? When we do operations in finite arithmetic, in the piano arithmetic, there's a definite way to do subtraction. Okay, you don't need to know which numbers, which items you're dealing with. So let's imagine, right? We've got 3 items here: a book, a bottle, and another bottle. And I want to just ask the question, right? I've got 3 items. I take one away. How many have I got left? I don't need to know which item it was.
You're arguing for
Okay. Right. Okay. I don't need to know which item. I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's a book. I just. I just want.
Well, I think you're going off topic.
No. But this is important. I'll explain why this is important. Right? Okay. Now, not the case. Infinite sets are different. Okay. So, in infinite sets, you do need to know which item you take away. So, for example, let's suppose we've got Hilbert's Hotel, and we want to ask the question: everyone in the hotel checks out, apart from the first 3 guests. How many have you got left? You've got 3 left. Now I ask
Yeah,
the
but
question: only the even-numbered guests.
this disproves the concept of an actual
No, it
infinite.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. Let me just finish the point. I'm almost done. I'm almost done, right? Now, let's suppose I ask the question, what if I take all the even-numbered guests out? How many have I got left? I've got all the odd-numbered guests left. But now what if I ask the question, what if I just take an infinite number of guests out? Well, I don't know, because the number of guests that were above 3 was infinite, and the number of guests that were even were also infinite. So if I don't specify which infinity, I can't get an answer. It's undefined. But once I specify which infinity, I now have a well-defined answer. So when you ask me the question, what's infinity divided by 6, or whatever it was, I can't remember what it is.
An infinite chain of people.
The problem is, you have to define which infinity you're dealing with. You can't just ask a question like that.
You're just playing with words.
So what is infinity? Can we please define what this is important? Yeah, all right, go ahead.
So we have 100 balls in one kind of,
Yeah.
Sorry, say again?
100 balls. You have 100 balls. Yeah?
There we go.
Balls.
Huh?
100 balls. All of them white.
Yeah.
What is the possibility to take red one?
You want to go?
0. Right?
We'll go. So when you were talking about the possibility, so when you take the possibilities, come to his point then.
I don't follow that.
So necessary existence.
So if you
What's that
if
got to do with infinity?
if
You said infinite paths is impossible.
you know,
And I don't see that it will.
I completely reject the contingency argument. Yeah, I don't believe in this whole concept of necessary existence. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. What I'm saying is this.
but then let us finish. Then you can have a conversation
No, but hang on,
because
I wanna hear what-
because you're gonna distract the conversation in a totally different
I agree.
area, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Because, okay.
Just answer me. Well, why can't you have an infinite chain? I don't understand why you can't.
Because if a part of an infinite must be an infinite.
Part of an infinite. No,
Yes.
that's not correct.
This is what mathematicians say and everyone say.
No, that's not
Cosmological
correct.
infinity doesn't exist.
Sorry.
How?
Cosmological infinity doesn't exist.
How do you know that?
Because you can measure the universe.
Yeah.
You can
No,
only
no,
measure
but-
so far.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not,
that's
I'm
what
not
it
saying
is.
this.
So wait.
So sorry, just
I'm not saying
saying.
this.
How the hell do you
I
know
can-
that?
No. I'm not saying this. I can give you the research paper from Oxford University if you wanna see. Do you see that? Research paper.
Tell me.
Yes, sure.
Because I work with
listen,
cosmologists all
Cosmological
the time.
infinity
So,
doesn't
you-
exist. Yeah.
Can you
I
please-
think I would know this.
Yeah, sure.
Can you
I can
tell
show
me?
you. I can show you.
Go for it. Show it to me.
So
Hang on, I want to see this. This is
Yeah, keep conversation.
no, but I really want to hear this. I'm sorry.
So what are you
I really
saying?
want to hear this.
Go ahead, let them understand.
what are you saying? I can.
Okay, go look it up. Show it to me. Yeah.
You can say you're saying I can take a specific number out of an infinity. So if there is an infinite chain of people, I can take a specific number, a limited number out of an infinite chain. Are you saying this?
I'm saying that
Because this is not logical.
Let me try and clarify what I'm saying. Right?
Okay.
That subtraction by itself in infinite sense is not well defined, but.
You know that's why annoy me. No, you don't answer to my question.
But I'm trying to answer as best I can, right? Maybe we misunderstand each other. Okay, so I'm just going to clarify.
I think you're talking about particulars and sets.
Right.
That's what you're talking about.
But
So
we're
you're
infinite. When we talk
the
about infinity, we
particulars.
are talking about sets, right? You can't have an infinity that's not a set, right? So, as far as I know, I mean, maybe you can, but as far as I understand it, and I am going to admit my understanding is limited, right? So, if for infinity, you have to specify more things for infinite sets than what you specify for finite sets. So the rules for infinite set theory are different to the rules for finite sets. Does that answer your question?
So an infinite set of people, if I divide them, if I divide them from 6, every part of the 6, how big it's going to be?
As I said, it's undefined.
It's undivided. That means like, are they going?
As far as I know.
Are they going to specific parts?
Say it
loud, say it proud, you don't know.
As far as I know, it's undefined.
What do you mean?
To his point.
Okay.
Is it going to be, because we're going to go soon?
But maybe we can get to the point.
Is it going to be a
You're
limited
going to
amount,
claim-
or is it going to be an
He's talking about
infinite amount?
particulars. He's not talking
Yeah,
about, he's
and-
talking about infinite
I think it was-
sets.
if you have an infinite set, obviously it's infinite, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So every part is infinite.
But obviously, not every part is infinite. So if you have the number line, let's take the number line of real numbers.
Okay.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? It goes on forever.
Don't talk about potential infinite, because a potential
this is an
infinite.
actual infinite, right? It
The
goes on
potential.
forever. I'm not
No,
talking about potential.
but
Actually infinite. You're not showing us.
but it's not. You know why it's not an actual
Well,
infinite?
you know what I'm claiming is if you have an infinite amount of time,
Can we measure the
you
universe?
could-
That's what infinity by definition is.
No, that's not what infinity means.
How does the
Why
universe?
infinity means?
How does the universe?
I know. That's
According
an
to
unknown
cosmology,
edge.
13.8.
No, that's not correct.
Oh, that's not correct.
No.
Wow.
Not correct.
No, here's the problem with Phil. He will take anyone's
Unknown has an
argument.
unknown age. I'll try and show it to you. Right?
So the scientists
I'll try and
are
explain
against
it.
all the. So the scientists.
No, I'm not.
So those who
I'm
say
not.
13.4 billion years old, what they say?
13.8.
What they say?
That is the expansion age, but it's not what you're referring to. No,
No,
you're wrong. You're wrong about it. Let me try and explain Let me try and say why you're wrong. Okay? Can I just make this one point?
Okay.
I just want to make this one point. I want to make this one point.
Okay.
It's important.
Let's say
The idea that the universe started
you watch a movie.
13.8 billion years ago is based off of singularity theories proven by Penrose and Hall.
Okay, wait, I know what to do.
Right. Okay. Now, what do the singularity theorems assume?
Singularity, that everything is in one.
Right. They assume, right, the general relativity describes gravity at all scales, correct?
Yeah.
Right? They assume that gravity is always attractive, correct?
Okay.
Right? Now, what did we discover in 1998?
I don't know. You tell me.
The universe is accelerating in its expansion.
Okay.
So is that repulsive or attractive gravity?
I don't know. You tell me.
It's repulsive gravity.
Yeah.
So that violates the condition of the Penrose-Hawking theorem.
Yeah, but you're not explaining.
Correct.
You're not explaining how the universe expanded.
That's not the question.
That is
Okay.
the question.
No.
Let me let me finish my argument.
That is the
your
question.
point.
No, what he's saying, what he's basically saying.
You're
Phil.
addressing.
He's talking about expansion of space.
No,
Let
what
me
he's
finish the
talking
point.
about is because the universe,
Right.
even before its expansion 30.8 billion years ago,
It may have existed
it's
before it
still-
started
it
to
may have been
expand.
existed.
Okay.
So, you can't say the Big Bang was the beginning because the conditions of the Penrose-Hawking theorem are known to be violated. Now, you can go to other theorems, but we also have to assume that gravity is described by general relativity. But since general relativity contradicts quantum mechanics at these high energy scales, right, no one believes these things, including
Just end the conversation. It's not going anywhere.
no, they neither of them think that the Big Bang was.
How did you
was
work with
the
them?
beginning.
What was you doing?
I was making films with them.
So,
on their theories of the origins of the universe.
I want to go. Can I ask?
Right,
can I ask-
no.
I need to
what
ask this
that
question,
means
please.
is that the universe.
No, I want to finish because I want to go as
Yeah, no,
well.
I want to ask this question.
0.8 billion years ago.
That's what happens with Phil.
Phil, listen.
He
You
uses
can't
the
say
word.
you're not sure. Correct.
Phil.
But the point was, the claim that you made that it was beginning 30.8 billion years ago is undermined. So that doesn't mean it's necessarily false.
So, Phil-
but we cannot say that it's true. Okay? Is that
It's clear.
Okay.
So what I want to say, because we gotta go. If you want to like end the argument,
fine.
because I can make the argument without referring to the infinity problem. Okay.
Okay,
Because I think you're just stubborn on this. Because, but let's not talk about
sure
this.
you did.
So what you're
sure
saying,
you did.
what you're saying is, it is possible for an infinite set of dependent existences to exist, and there is no need of a necessary existence. So there can be a reality if you say that.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why things
Okay,
couldn't go back
if you have like, we have a reality of all dependent existences. So this set of dependent existences, they're all dependent, but they need nothing to depend on.
Well, you could imagine that.
Reality as a whole. You say, so we have dependent existence, dependent
Naught was
existence.
caused by -1 was caused by
Yeah.
-2 -2 was caused by -.
Okay.
There's no logical contradiction.
But
there,
this set,
right? There's no logical
it
contradiction.
is because
Agreed? Would you agree with that?
I see there's logical contradiction. There is a
Even William
logical.
Lane Craig, one of the most famous defenders of this argument, doesn't claim that there's a logical.
I see rational problem. I don't know if it's a logical contradiction.
Is it what?
but
Sorry, what problem?
A rational problem here because you
what's the
think
difference?
there is an infinite set
Yeah.
of possible existences that are all dependent on something else, but they need nothing to depend. They have like no foundation.
Just
so-
one goes depends on the other.
So so if I take
What does
reality,
the original thing depend on?
But there was, if it is, that's a contradiction.
So-
If it goes back forever, there is no original thing.
no,
You're sort of assuming what you want to prove.
No.
You're assuming that
No.
there's a beginning. So if it goes back
No,
forever,
no,
there is
even-
no beginning. So
okay,
there is
let's
no
say-
original
let's say-
thing.
okay, wait.
You're saying dependent things can exist without something independent.
let's say our universe is infinite.
I'm saying there's
let's
no
say-
logical contradiction. There's
you're
no
saying-
reason.
so you're-
there's
No,
no
Hamza.
reason to assert that couldn't happen.
Let's not talk about beginning. For argument's sake, I can agree with you that the universe is infinite.
said something.
Okay, so we have a dependent universe.
Can I just try my mate Yusuf in?
Yeah.
He just said something. So he says an infinite number of dependent things can exist
Without-
with no need for something independent.
Necessary.
So I guess the argument I would say is that the number of things doesn't necessitate. Would you be saying that the pile of everything dependent would be necessary then?
No, he said there's no need for something necessary.
No,
because
let me-
What I'm saying is that there's no contradiction in asserting that, X happened before that, Y happened before that, Z happened, and it just
Yeah.
goes back forever.
So
But I don't see any logical contradiction
Well,
in asserting
one
that,
second.
Yeah.
right? In saying that's possible.
So the
there's no reason to rule that out.
The contingency argument doesn't even necessarily say that couldn't be the case.
That's what I wanted
Well,
to
right,
say.
but you did appeal to the infinite, right?
I did
you said
appeal-
you did appeal to the impossibility.
But then
of
I
the
told you, even if the universe is
So we're
infinite,
dropping that argument now, are we?
about the infinite,
Yeah. are
I
we
say
dropping
if
that
you're
argument?
stubborn about the infinity,
Well,
No, he's
then we
I
can.
am being stubborn because that's what we do
Then we
in
can-
philosophy. We try
No.
and find all the flaws
No,
in an
but
argument.
listen.
So, like,
Right,
you
that's
can
what
have-
we do.
I think. Listen. To sum this up,
Infinite number of dependent things.
I think there is a
I'm not
rational
saying you
problem
can't. I'm saying
with
that the
an actual
argument has
infinite.
got
I
nothing
think
to do with whether or not
an
the
actual
pile
infinite
of-
rational.
So can you just read it? Do you say there is not a problem?
I think there is. I think
So what is the
rationally an actual infinite cannot exist. But even
Actual infinite cannot exist.
yes,
Any
but listen.
Wow.
But I say,
That's fine to say.
but listen. That's the second point. Listen to my second point. I say even if you say it can exist, I can still make my argument within.
Can I just ask you a question? Are you
I
not
wouldn't say
contradicting
that there
Islam?
would be no need
here?
for
Doesn't
people.
Islam
Yeah, no, I
tell
wouldn't
you
say that.
that you have an infinite future?
One second, Phil.
But that means So you're contradicting Islam as far as I can see.
Fail.
How are you contradicting Islam?
Teaches, as far as I understand it, you correct me if I'm wrong. You correct me if I'm wrong, right? Islam teaches that there is an infinite future.
This is a red herring.
No,
What you
it's
do?
not,
We're not
because you
talking
said
about
an
Islam.
actual infinite cannot exist.
We're just talking
But that
about
would
God.
be an-
We're not talking about Islam.
No, it
Right?
wouldn't be.
Why would it not?
Because the future is not actual.
There's a potential.
Because there's a distinction between a potential and an actual infinite. An actual infinite is an infinite that exists now.
Yeah.
And a potential infinite is one that has no.
Are we using
existence.
Aristotle's definition?
Aristotle, I don't know whose definition it is.
Okay, because Aristotle defined potential.
Let's go back to the original point you were just making.
Potential
Hang
infinite
on.
is one that can, like, you can always potentially.
So you're saying that the future is okay. So let me just see if I understand the argument. You're saying the future is not actual, so therefore that's not a problem.
The future is not an actual.
Is it not
infinite, it's a
actual?
potential.
Okay. So does God not know the future?
What's that got to do with whether or not?
Because
it's
if he, all right. So if I ask God, how? Like, let's imagine there's a very famous paper by Wes Morrison. About singing angels, okay? So let's just ask the question. Let's imagine God says to Angel Gabriel, sing me a praise today, a praise tomorrow, and a day after that. How many praises will Gabriel sing? Three, right, we're all agreed, okay? Now let's say, and keep going forever. How many praises does he sing now?
Well, at any particular moment, he's sang a particular number of praises. And
Right, but he will sing an infinite number of praises. will he
No,
not?
he never actually sings an infinite number of praises.
Because
at any moment
he doesn't.
he does.
No, he doesn't. Because at any point in that timeline, there's a
Oh, of
beginning.
course.
Yeah. So then,
But that's not the point.
No, at any point
Okay.
in that timeline, he's always praised a finite number of times.
Okay.
He's never
But
ever
what's it-
going to have praised an infinite amount.
No, that's not correct.
But it is correct.
Well, let me try and explain why I think why we disagree. Okay, so let's just ask a question. Let's think of the real number line. Okay, let's say we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right now, I ask you, right, if the number line is infinite, right, it has no end, right, then it must be infinite. Right?
Yeah, if it's got no end,
it's got no end. It's
well,
infinite.
it's not
right,
going to be.
Well, you know what I told them?
Right. Now, hang on. No, let me finish the point. Right. Now, I ask you to pick any number on the number line.
Yeah.
Any number at all. Right.
That's
That
always gonna
number
be a
is
finite
only
number.
going to have a finite distance from zero. But that doesn't mean that the number line is finite.
No,
In
but
fact,
that's not the claim.
It must be
no,
infinite.
but that's not the claim.
Right. It
'Cause
must be
this
infinite.
is the thing, with the passage of time, you
Yeah.
only ever have a present moment. And so at any point on that timeline, which you just considered there, he's only ever going to praise
Yeah,
a finite number of
In a
times.
finite amount of time, he will only praise a finite number.
But there's
right?
never going to be there will never be a moment
But the
where he's, let me
cardinality-
finish. Because there's never going to be a point on that timeline where you can say he has praised an infinite
Yeah,
number of
because he
times.
can't. Right.
Exactly. So you can't say that he's praised.
But no,
Yeah, no,
because,
you
all right,
just
let me
conceded
finish.
to the
All right,
point.
let me finish.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, an infinite series. He can't come to the end.
Exactly.
That's what we agreed.
So he can
we all
never
agreed on that.
Right. So then the claim that he
No,
has
but that
made an
doesn't
infinite
contradict
amount
the
of
claim that I'm making.
It does.
No, let me explain
because if
why.
it's never an actual moment.
Let me explain why.
But Yusuf,
The
I think
infinite,
the
by
conversation going to the
definition-
wrong direction.
By definition,
Because-
no, hang on. By definition, the infinite is endless. Would we agree?
The infinite is boundless.
It's endless. It's endless.
It can be
It's endless.
boundless.
Come on.
No, 'cause-
infinite is endless. So you can't come to the end of an endless series. So what you're saying is this series must
By
be
definition-
finite. The series
No.
must be finite
No,
because he
that's
can't get
not-
to the end.
no,
But it's the other way round. It's infinite because
No.
he can't get to the end.
No, that's
because
not what
by
I'm saying.
definition,
No,
infinity is endless.
That's not-
So
Guys,
obviously
can I-
he can't
can I
get
just
to
You're
the
say
end.
saying how many times has he praised?
Because he's running
No,
away from the
No,
argument.
that's not
Wait,
what I'm saying.
wait,
Not
wait,
how many
wait,
times
wait.
have we
We're not gonna
will
get
praise.
to that.
You
Not
can
how many
establish
times
the argument
he has
with
praised.
accepting.
That's finite and will
Yeah,
always
yeah,
be finite. But how many times he will praise is infinite, right? And if it's endless, right? The whole point is what you're saying is he can't
that's
get to
not-
the end.
But then
He
that's
can't
not an
get to the
actual.
end.
But then that's
right?
not an actual.
No, it is.
No, it's
right?
not. It's not an actual because he hasn't got that timeline hasn't finished. So you're talking
Of course
about
it hasn't finished because
exactly,
it's
which
infinite.
is what makes it potential.
No, but if it's
which is
not,
what makes it
no.
potential and not
if
actual.
if it's
But
not
Yusuf,
finished,
why don't we-
it
can I say
must-
something?
It can't finish because it's infinite.
Right, we've dealt with
if
that,
you
we've
said
dealt
he
with that.
finished,
Wait,
then
wait,
it's not
Yusuf.
infinite.
No,
right?
no, because you're
It
not getting
can't
this
be.
distinction between a potential
No,
and
I'm
an actual.
familiar with the distinction between
You're not
the
because
potential.
you're talking about it as if it's an actual. Simply saying that
Yes.
he will praise
All right,
it.
all right.
You know what?
So are you?
An infinite
Would we
amount of
agree?
time.
Would we agree? We agreed that if he just asked for praises one tomorrow, one the day after tomorrow, one after that,
It would be
that's
three.
three.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no debate about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So if we see keeps going and never stops,
At any
then it
point,
must
it's
be
limited.
infinite.
At any point,
Otherwise, you've got to say it's
So it
not
would-
3.
No, I would say
you should have said
you
it
can
wasn't
put-
3.
It's a potential infinite.
There's the
but there's no.
control.
But the issue is if you want to say actual, then there's a.
bro, he's not going to accept it.
There's no point
you
on
know,
that timeline.
You know why I say what we do? You know why I say what we do?
Okay,
Let's make.
I really want to get food.
I know. But I just want to go back to one point just before you do get on.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
So you said something earlier, and I want to see if you just to clarify this. You're saying an infinite, we're going to use the word infinite again, an infinite chain of dependent things can exist without the need
Yes.
for anything independent.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's what you claimed.
So
I
I would,
don't see any reason to
Right,
think
so
that's
he's going to tell you why you're wrong.
that pile would be dependent.
So you have a pile of.
The contingent, everything that is contingent would be the necessary thing.
The thing is, he thinks we're talking about the cause-effect thing. We're not talking about time.
No, it doesn't have to be causal relations. So I'm not saying it has to
we're
be a
talking
causal
about
relation.
this bottle. Excuse me if I talk. It has there's certain prior conditions to make it exist in this shape or form, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's dependent on these conditions.
Yeah.
So we say we have a pile of infinite things that are dependent on something that so they can exist in the way they do. And you say no, they don't need something.
And that's why he's saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see what the problem is.
Tell me what's the problem. What's the problem?
So I would say that if you're going to say that there's not something distinct from everything that's contingent, and that this thing that is distinct would be the necessary thing or the independent thing. If all there is contingent things, then that collection of contingent things is the thing that becomes
It's like-
necessary. So there is a necessary thing. The distinction is as well. What is it? Is it the collection of things that are
Well, okay,
contingent?
I mean, let's just
or is it
assume that there
distinct
could be, right? I mean, all right, we can go into where there's a meaningful distinction between contingency and necessary, because I think that depends on whether determinism is true and all kinds of conditions. But let's just assume it was. Why couldn't the universe just be necessary? I don't see why it couldn't.
Because
it's
it
made
is
of independent
conceivable
things.
in another way. You could every part, like everything in the universe is conceivable.
Conceive of it doesn't mean it's really possible.
Yeah, but that's
again, I
against-
could conceive.
Has something made
I
for-
could conceive of you growing an extra head. Right?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
But that doesn't
so-
mean you really can.
What-
grow an
yes,
extra head. There may be laws
But,
of physics.
but you know what this means. You know what it means.
So do you believe-
to extend.
No, let's just-
wait,
let me
wait.
try and
Let me just answer to what he
Let's
said.
say one.
Just
Yeah,
answer,
please.
just very quick. To answer the question why I have one head and not two, the answer lies not in myself, but you need an external explanation. So I am dependent from that external explanation, so you can know like why I exist in this way and not in another way.
So the reason.
So this shows that I'm dependent and not necessary.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
this
I
is-
agree. Like,
so the
like,
universe
there's a
being in a
reason why-
specific way
But it doesn't-
and not in another way. So if you look for the
But how do
explanation,
you know the universe could be in another way? Answer me that.
because I can conceive it in another way.
But that doesn't follow because it
It
might
follows.
be the fact that you can. That's the whole point. The fact that you can conceive of something doesn't mean it's actually possible.
What I'm
Right?
meaning.
Can we just agree on that?
Where does this?
Do you agree that you can conceive of you growing a head right now? I can
Yeah.
imagine that.
It is possible.
Right, but do you really think that's actually possible?
say no, because
That
I would
could
say
really
where does this-
happen.
It is a possible existence, a human being with two
Yeah,
heads.
but do you really think it's possible that you could just?
But
suddenly
that's something
grow a head?
that's, I'm not talking about
No,
this.
but this is the whole point.
I'm
This is
talking
the
about.
absolute.
No, it's not the
crucial
point.
All right,
You don't get away with it.
All right.
Can I give you one question? Yeah. Okay, so we spoke about carbon forming in stars, yeah? Beryllium and helium. Do you believe that process is random? You believe it's organised?
Depends what you mean by organised.
All right. When I say what's the opposite of random?
Ben, gonna meet him next year, inshallah.
What's the opposite of random?
Deterministic.
Right. So do you believe that the beryllium and helium forming in stars to make carbon is determined?
Maybe.
And what?
You know what I'm going to say.
He's on
You
that.
don't know. Well, here's the thing.
No, I mean, we don't know whether. Let me
okay.
just say something. We don't know whether the universe is deterministic or not. There are good reasons.
no, I'm just asking because-
Yeah, that's fine.
No,
so
no,
I'm answering.
Yeah.
But please let me answer.
Go on.
Okay. There are theories called like superdeterminism, which says that even the quantum stuff is determined. Now, they are logically consistent theories, and I'm
Are you
not
doing
prepared
well?
to rule them out.
No empiricism
The
about that.
consensus,
Tell us how we
the
finish it.
consensus
You're
view
wrapping
like
up.
quantum mechanics is fundamentally
It's just
random.
pseudoscience. There's no empiricism.
That's not true. It's not pseudoscience.
Okay, I'll ask you again. If you're saying Okay.
I thought you were finishing. But
No. I just want to understand because from what I understand,
it's called humility, Darren.
No.
That's something that I think you.
I don't mind don't knows. I don't mind that.
It seems like you do.
I
You made fun of me for saying don't know. You know you did.
No. I said
did.
Oh, okay.
You did.
When
and
someone
you know
says
you
they
did.
don't know and says I'm wrong about the thing they don't know about, I find it humorous. Yeah, of course. Okay. But what I'm saying,
there's a difference between saying wrong and saying unjustified. So I think you're unjustified to say the universe had a beginning.
I think I'm justified.
I think you're unjustified to say the universe had a beginning.
I think
that doesn't mean I know that it didn't.
No. I believe
Right?
I'm
Just as I think an example.
I'm justified.
They're not the same.
I'm justified.
They're not the same.
I'm justified in believing that beryllium helium forming into carbon is not random. I'm justified in that. Now, if you think I'm not justified, you can tell me the probabilities of that.
No one's saying that stellar evolution is an
Let's wrap it up
random
here, bro.
process, right?
So Phil,
it's not the kind. Oh, it's nice.
So
How many times we have to count don't knows, we're gonna have a little counter.
So it was nice.
I know
to
you will, and that will be fun for you. But really, it's about having humility.
So nice talking to you. I'm actually from Germany, so you're not going to see me every time. But
I'm here very rarely.
maybe,
Very rarely.
we're going to meet another time, maybe. So
That's good. All right.
okay.
Take care.
Well, then we can think about what was said, and we can think of it as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
That was Phil. My man Earth on here is fishing for an atheist. He got the king of atheists. He's the king of atheists in this park.
The king of don't know, but don't know sounds like.
He's the king of don't knows. So I always find it humorous where he would say something like, for example, I asked him, what's your best evidence against the existence of a creator? And he said, animal suffering. Right? Then he asked me for my best evidence for a creator. And I said, creation. And then I spoke about the origin of the cell. And you know, he tries to use long words. The reality is this. Science has no explanation of the first set of information found in DNA in the first cell. They don't know. And he claims there's so many theories on it. There's no theories on it. So we called it last time, was it any argument in a storm? Anyway, Irfan, you take it away.
Yeah, so I directed the conversation in another direction. I talked actually with Paul about the contingency argument. And my argument was that there cannot be an infinite set of dependencies, of things that are dependent on something else ad infinitum. But Paul was saying that an actual infinite is possible, and we were talking about that, but he was too stubborn to accept that actual infinities are not possible. So I changed the argument, and I accepted, for argument's sake, that the universe can be infinite, but it would still be dependent on a necessary existence. But he even don't want to have that. So the conversation kind of went nowhere. We tried our best. Inshallah, the viewers
Surprise.
the viewers can benefit from it. Yeah. And it was a pleasure being with my mate Hamza today here, mashallah. Yeah, the Pondas came and contributed his.
Yeah, Pondas came and
Very
added
nice.
clarity to the situation.
And don't forget the cameraman, Ben Ikra.